led by somebody else, someone else. What do they say? That a good man always has what? Behind every good man is a good woman. Good woman. Is it true, John? Okay. I'd say so too. But behind every good leader is a good leader, okay? God is the best leader you can come up with. By the hand of the Lord and the Spirit of the Lord, made Othniel a good leader and a good judge, because God rose him up, and God strengthened him with the Holy Spirit. I want you to see all this. I want you to learn by Othniel's example. I know it's kind of crazy, and it may not make sense to you, but really think about it. How Othniel was rose up by the Lord. Othniel, was he a good judge? You be the judge of that. Othniel was a good judge because he took care of business first. I want you to see that. He defeated Israel's worst enemy at home and defeated the outside enemies in trouble. How can we apply that to our lives? We too are called to do something in this world, are we not? We're all called to go out there and preach the gospel. We're all called to be more like Christ in each and every way in our lives, each and every day, grow as the Lord tells us to. We need to defeat our worst enemy first, just as Othniel did. Our worst enemy is ourselves, our sinful nature, our fleshly nature. Defeat that in your life on a daily basis, just as Othniel did on the home front. Not only that, but we have double trouble in our lives as well. We have enemies out there. I'm not saying we should go out and kill them, but I'm saying you need to not let them get to you. People of the world don't know any better. They don't know what we have as Christians. We need to be an example to them and defeat them with love and with kindness and show them that the Lord loves them as well. So as Othniel was a good judge, let us be like him and take care of business as well. Othniel was a good judge because he rose to the position by the hand of the Lord and by the strength of the Spirit. You think about that. God's given us each a position in this church, each a position in our lives as Christians. You fulfill that positions because God has his hand upon you. Whether you believe it or not, God has his hand upon your life. God's told you to do something in your life, and you need to raise to the position as Othniel did. Do what God tells you to, because God's hand is upon you. Not only that, but we don't just have the Holy Spirit upon us, but we have the Holy Spirit in us. So if Othniel brought a nation back to God through the hand of the Lord and through the Spirit upon him, how much more should we be able to do? If God's given you a position of a Sunday school teacher, do the position to its fullest. The hand of the Lord is upon you. The Spirit of the Lord is within you. Do it like Othniel would. The hand of the Lord is upon me as a pastor. I need to be more like that. I need to be a better leader for him. Because God's hand is upon me. His Holy Spirit's within me. If Othniel could bring back Israel, then I should be able to do what the Lord has me to do. Maybe God's just called you to be a prayer warrior. Go pray your heart out. God's hand is upon you and His Spirit is upon you. You pray when God tells you to pray for the people in this church, the people of this nation, the people of this town. Do what God's laid upon your heart. All of us may not be a judge in Israel. All of us may not be a leader in this world or this community or this church, but you do have a position. Rise to that position. God will raise you up by His hand and by the strength of the Holy Spirit, just as He did Othniel. And lastly, Othniel was a good judge because he had a good judge. Remember, God is always looking upon you. God always knows what we do. God is the one who's leading us. First, learn from your forefathers. I've learned a lot from my dad. He's a good pastor. He's a good man. I learned more from him in my lifetime than I did in all my life in college, because my dad was the example he should be. I know all of you have maybe grandparents or mothers or fathers who raised you right, who raised you in the church. Somebody you have to look up to. Learn from them. Remember those who raised you up and taught you well. And not only that, but remember God is your judge, like I said. He judges us by His hand, by His Holy Spirit. He leads us and guides us in the right direction. So I ask you this question again. Was Othniel a good judge? You be the judge of that. What's your answer? Anybody? All those in favor say no. I'm just kidding. I say yes. Because when God gave him something to do, He did it. And He did it by the hand of the Lord and the Holy Spirit. Take that to heart this week and throughout your life. God's hand is upon us. His Holy Spirit's within us. Raise to the occasion, raise to the position, do what God tells you to do. Because with Christ, all things are possible. As we come to our time of invitation, I don't know what He's laid upon your heart this morning, and I always say that, but you do. God's telling you to do something, you do it this morning. Maybe you need to come to the altar this morning and you pray for some of your family members. Maybe you need to come to the altar this morning and just lay something down at His feet and say, Lord, take this away from me. Forgive me for what I've done. Do what the Lord's laid upon your heart. Maybe you want to come and join this congregation this morning. Do what the Lord wants you to do. Maybe, like I said last week, God's calling you to take position in this church. You feel that you need to do something more in this church. Do what God lays upon your heart as we come to this invitation.